Hello and welcome to Box to Board. Today we are going to look at Star Trek Adventures, the Delta Quadrant Sourcebook, and have a little bit of a look at what's inside. I'm going to do an unboxing, I hope. It's in the cellophane. A couple of things just to mention at the very beginning. One of the things that I really like about this is whenever you order it, you get the PDF there and then, which is really nice because it lets you get a bit of a head start, but I do love books. PDFs are great, and for some games it's brilliant, but for Star Trek I just really like having the book. Let's have a look and see what it's like. So first impressions, standard kind of book, normal kind of size as far as the expansions go. Detailed information about the post-war Federation and USS Voyager's monumental mission. So it takes up 2379 in timeline. Information on many of the species inhabiting the quadrant. Including Kazon, Vidian, Sodality, the Malin and the Voth. Extensive content in Borg, which is probably a big selling point for this. Dozen new species to choose from during character creation. A selection of alien starships and guidance in running missions in the missions and continuing voyages in the Delta Quadrant. So let's have a look inside. First thing is there's not the same amount of detail in the map, because this is of course this is the path of the Voyager, and they didn't explore everything, so there's a limit to what we know, which is quite cool. I wonder what the back one's like as well, and it's the different sections. That's quite cool. I like that. It's a nice touch actually. And we have credits and bits and pieces here, and then we have the introduction standard. This is the same format of of all these books basically. We've got the welcome to the Delta Quadrant, then we've got the bit about the Delta Quadrant and the worlds of it, and then we get species and starships and encounters. So let's have a look. Yeah, quality's good as ever. And it's got that L-cars kind of feel to it, which is really nice. So the supplement structure tells you a bit about them, about the different bits. Campaign usage is quite interesting, so that's quite cool. And then there's a little bit which could be, one of the challenges of Delta Quadrant is how are you going to use it with previous incarnations of Star Trek, so how are you going to use it in the different eras. However, they do actually think through that, so that could be quite cool, and there's bits there that could help with that. Blah blah Voyager. Then we get the bit about the actual Delta Quadrant, the Devore, Imperium, the Hakonans, the Hierarchy, Herodians, Kazon. So there's quite a lot going on, and let's have a look. So the Kazon's the one that could be interesting, I suppose. And there's a good bit of the history there actually, so that's quite interesting. So then you get the the Malin, species 8472, of course. Gonna have a bit of them. They're going to be interesting and pretty formidable if you have to deal with them. Then we've got Servani, the Swarm. I always thought they were kind of one of those ones that could have been really used, but I don't know. Talaxians, a bit more about Talaxians, Vadwar, Imperium, Vidian, Society, Voth. Yeah, and then we've got a bit about different stellar and spatial phenomena. So that's quite interesting because these could be used in other campaigns, I suspect. You could bring them in. And then we've got a bit of the worlds, and to be honest with you, with a lot of this stuff, I look at it and I go, I don't know if I'm going to run something in the Delta Quadrant, but actually it's all ideas. It gives richness, and it gives inspiration for ideas to the planets. So for instance, I could use some of this. So there's Hammond 4. Seismic activity is high, resulting in periodic volcanic eruptions, frequent quakes. Surface temperature varies from very hot during the day to very cold at night, lacking in abundance of vegetation or plentiful sources of water. It's home to species of humanoid who have not developed civilization, living instead in nomadic tribes of 20 or 30. So I'm sitting looking at that and going, actually, you know, I could use that planet somewhere else. Which could be quite, you know, I can nick some of these planetary backgrounds and use them in different places, so that's quite cool. And I like that, you know, I like the fact that here's another bundle of planets that I can use and play with and, you know, work on. Underground city, I could use a bit of this. Which is all about the Acampa. And then we get, you know, lots of planets there. Then we get the bit that's probably the juice of this. This is the bit you're after, which is the Borg Collective. Now, from looking at the PDF, it's extensive, so it's really nice. So you've got We Are the Borg, Function of the Collective, what the rule of the Queen. What is the rule of the Queen? Clarify some of that. How do you resist them? How do you resist the force of nature? And what do species do in light of the Borg? How do they survive if they're going to survive? If you live in an area bordering Borg space, this is just a reality. What are you going to do about it? You know, how are you going to up sticks and run? Can you do that? So some really nice sort of bits to that, I think. That I like that bit. I found that really interesting to read in the PDF. And then there's a bit about the different types of ships that the Borg have got, which is interesting because, you know, actually there's quite a lot, just not just that big cube that you see a lot of times, other varieties of things. Yeah, and then there's tons about this. There's bits, you know, some strategies that you can use against them, like boarding actions, a bit about how they, you know, how they work. Then this idea of, you know, different types of drones, infants and children within the collective, tactical drones, you know, board adjutants. What is it they're looking for? What are they trying to do? And then we've got some Borg locations. So we get a bit of a Borg space. We get terrestrial worlds. So some notes to GMs. Unlike in other supplements, this section does not detail specific locales of planets. Instead, it provides explanations on how the Borg make use of the locations they inhabit. Borg do not hold home worlds or historical sites in any particular esteem. They are important as their natural resources. So each of these types of locations also includes traits that can commonly be applied when the player characters' missions take them there, along with any special rules that may apply as well, and how the Borg can use them. So they don't. So you can use them in a variety of places, which is really, really nice. So you get things like how do they use gaseous planets, how do they use demon worlds, how do they use terrestrial habitat, terrestrial worlds, how do they use asteroids, what's it going to look like, what's it going to feel like, and then this uni-complex, these massive deep space structures, what are they about? So you know, and I like this. I like the fact that I'm suddenly in this position where I could have a Borg world somehow settled in the Briar Patch to really throw, you know, or the Shackleton Expanse. That would certainly up the ante of a campaign. You know, what the heck are you going to do with this? It looks like the Borg have established a foothold here. What's going on? How are we going to deal with this? Then we've got a little bit about species, the Delta, different ones that you can play. By this stage, I must admit, it's kind of like sometimes I look at these and I go, unless I've got a reason to play them, I don't think my party would play them. But there's some of them that are actually quite nice. So we've got this whole idea of non-Federation, non-Starfleet, and a bit about what we can do with that. So you get the, and I'm not even, the names are Ankari, Jai, which are basically administrators, which is, you know, interesting. We get liberated Borg. Now, what I've been hearing and what is that they're very powerful. So as a GM, you might want to steer people away from it, or you certainly might want to make it that it's not a power player who's picking them. So if you're going to have liberated Borg, you want to make sure that basically you've got somebody who's not just going to use it to spoil everybody's night. So you know, it's just something to bear in mind. Have a look at it, see what you think yourself. Logarim, who basically are into holograms. Mari, telepathic species that have only recently begun to explore the stars. I like telepathic species if you play them right. Yep, Manean. So they're a nomadic species, and water-based Kampa, like Kess, and I like the Kampa. I think they're quite an interesting species. Partly the telepathic thing really appeals to me, but also I really like the fact they're so short-lived, which was just such a simple thing, you know. But it's a nice twist. Pandari. So members of this species have remained the champions in interplanetary competition due to physical size and tenacity. So they're like born to fight. These are big fighty people. Sicarians, storytellers and sort of that kind of way. Talaxians, yeah, Talaxians are one of those ones that always like Neelix. They kind of drive me mad. Neelix is one of my least favourite characters, and I know there's people who love him, but so I'd be interested to see people play. You know, what could be done with that. I don't know. Turi, which are basically underground dweller type people. And then we get some weird species and things that we get. Borg drones, silver bloods. We get some weird species things. And Zal. I have no idea. And then we've got ships. So we get Borg Collective, as you'd expect. Now this is where I find this quite interesting. So we get Borg Octahedron, Borg Probe Ship, Borg Tactical Cube, Borg Taurus. So it's not just your cube, and then there's a bit about the different technology that they use, which is really good. And then we get some Delta Quadrant sort of ones. So we get the Delta Flyer, which the US Voyager used. We get Talaxian Freighter, Kazon Raider, Predator. Now some of these I'm looking at and I'm going, I might not use them in that context, but they'd be quite nice to have variety to the different ships. So there's a couple of ones that I might, so for instance the Talaxian Trader, well I could actually use it in a trading vessel and something else, the stat line of it, which would be quite good. Then we get the Species 8472 Bioship, Video and Warship, and these, I think this is quite cool. I think there's a lot of nice things here. I think there's in terms of the ships, and I think this is one of the things. This is a book that if you're not playing in the Delta Quadrant, you're going to have to think about how you're going to use it. I think it's good, but it's something just to think about. Now, having said that, there are some really interesting little bits here that I think are showing the maturity of the game and how it's developed. So you've got these demon doubles, which is quite an interesting idea from what I can remember. If I can get it, there's clones being clones basically, and so the Talaxian miners assumed the liquid was pulled as a result of extraction of deuterium. However, it was actually a biomimetic life form capable of copying anything which comes into physical contact with it, both biological or mechanical. And this is interesting. So I could use that in any setting, and it's one that I'm looking at and just going, yeah, this could be used. I can very easily adapt that. You could look at, I mean, there's a lot, I think with the encounter seeds, they're not so Delta Quadrant specific that you actually have, that you would be sitting going, I've got to use them only in the Delta Quadrant. And that's quite useful, because it means that I've got this capacity to, suddenly I've got a few more missions out of that as a GM, which is really nice. Some of them are a bit more specific. I mean, the time fugitive one, you might have to, I think you have to adapt it a wee bit. And then we've got, you know, we've got lots of different characters, NPCs that you can use as well. But this is the thing. I think this is a, you know, there's some really nice little bits here. There's some lovely stuff in it. If you want to run a Delta Quadrant campaign, this is an awesome book. If you don't, this is a book that you might want to think about and use and nick ideas. So there's lots of, as a GM, I think there's quite a lot of useful content in it. So for exploring Borg space, there's encounter seeds again, crossing the hollow, traversing is so dangerous that people don't even consider it. Evacuation, I think you could use that for a variety of different places, and you could adapt that quite easily. Caught in the crossfire. Now this is an interesting one, because I think that could be quite cool and could be adapted reasonably easily. There's a few of these that actually you can play with and you can really adapt. And you know, there's one here, outdated Borg models. That would be really useful for a mission in Alpha or Beta Quadrant, I think. Ghost in the Machine. Could be interesting. Highest bidder. There's a lot of really nice ones here. So, and then again we've got our notable. We've got some NPCs in this, which is quite nice. Again, and we get the Borg Queen, and she's just formidable and awesome. So then, how you can defeat them, and then that's it. So, what's my feeling on this one? Is it a must-have book? I think it's a very good book, actually. Whether you have to have it is really down to a couple of things. I think as a GM, for the sake of completeness, if you've got Alpha, Beta, Delta, get Alpha, Beta, Gamma, get the Delta, because then you've got all 4 quadrants. It's a wealth of stuff, and we're actually going to do a video on just the Quadrant Sourcebooks altogether, and sort of have a look at them and an overview of them. I think in terms of, if you're a player, there's a lot of stuff in there that is interesting. I personally, if I was just playing, I wouldn't necessarily pick this up, unless I had a very specific interest. I was maybe a big Voyager fan. It'd be interesting as a Voyager, if you're a big Voyager fan, so you have it. Overall, I think it's a very good book. For those who want to run a Delta Quadrant campaign, this is a must-have. There's no question about that. It's a brilliant book. So it'd be a 5 out of 5 if you want to run a Delta Quadrant campaign. If you don't want to run a Delta Quadrant campaign, personally, I would go with, I would say it's about a 4, maybe a 3.5, because you're going to have to adapt quite a lot. And the Delta Quadrant is so remote from Starfleet that you're going to have to play with it quite a bit. But there is a lot of meat in there, and if you don't mind working at it, and if you're coming at it from that point of view, it's the definite 4. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I wanted to get this, but it wasn't one of the ones that was desperate to get hot off the press, because I'm not that big a Voyager fan. I like Voyager sometimes, I watch it, but it's not my first love. Deep Space Nine is. This is good. This is really good, and it's certainly it's one of those books that you look at and you go, I'm really glad they made it. Whenever it first came out, I went, oh well, I suppose, and I'm really glad I got it, because actually there's a lot in there that I can use, but you have to be willing to work at it. Okay, so hopefully that makes some sense, and hopefully it's been informative and helpful. You've had a flick through, if nothing else. Lots of stuff in there if you're not going to play Delta Quadrant that you can nick, you can adapt, you can play with and tweak, but it will take a little bit of work. Don't be intimidated by that. Borg show up a lot of different places. They are the ultimate baddies in my opinion. They're brilliant. And the nice thing about it is, and I would say this, if the nice thing about the Borg is if you've, one of the things I've noticed with this game, players can get very confident and can feel they can deal with everything. It becomes a little bit, it can become a little bit too easy at times, I think, because you can gather quite a lot. Players will get momentum mining going sometimes. Introducing the Borg scares the wits out of them, and from that point of view, you can't beat these guys. You just can't do it. There's no way you're going to be able to do it. So you've got a fear factor in there, which is brilliant. And they really bring almost like a horror factor into Star Trek Adventures, which is great. Okay, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that, and as ever, be safe, be well, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.